Hello, everybody. Welcome to Week 3 of the Mid-American Conference College Football Podcast, as we take a look at technically Week 4 of the college football season, but Week 3 for most teams. So, let's go ahead and get into a quick recap of last week's games. You can follow me at Betsportsstrong on Twitter and Facebook. Also, Betsportsstrong.com and Betsportsstrong on Captain. So, last week, the Mid-American Conference was 7-5 overall. Let's go ahead and take a look at our team of the week. Once again, the Western Michigan Broncos with a 34-10 win over Illinois. Western Michigan led 24-7 at halftime and held the Fighting Illini to only 3 yards rushing, improving to 2-0 against Big Ten teams this season. Remember, they did beat Northwestern as well. I'd also like to give a co-team of the week to the Akron Zips. Now, the Akron win may not seem as appealing as Western Michigan pulling off their second win over a Big Ten team. However, the Zips faced Marshall on the road, and the Zips came in as a 17.5-point underdog. Akron fell behind 21-7 on Marshall after the first quarter, but the Zips then rolled off 34 straight points in the second quarter, and the Zips went on to win 65-38. Thomas Woodson threw for 379 yards for the Zips with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. Also around the conference, very good performances by the Central Michigan Chippewas, who followed up their controversial win over Oklahoma State with a 44-21 win over UNLV. Toledo continues to roll, and they made easy work of Fresno State 52-17. Looks like the Rockets will be a contender in the West this year, although the West looks very, very good. Ball State dropped Eastern Kentucky 41-14. Eastern Michigan beat Charlotte 37-19. That's a very good road win for the Eastern Michigan Eagles. Kent State beat Monmouth 27-7. Those will wrap up your winners from last week. As for the losers, the Ohio Bobcats played Tennessee Volunteers very, very tough before falling on the road to the Volunteers of the SEC 28-19. Bowling Green looks like they're in for a long season. The Falcons fell to 1-2 with a 41-21 loss to Middle Tennessee. Falcons also have a tough matchup coming up, but we'll get into that. Northern Illinois falls to 0-3. They lost to San Diego State 42-28. Also, Nevada blows out Buffalo 38-14. Miami, Ohio fell to Western Kentucky 31-24 in a game that I honestly expected to be a lot uglier. So that wraps up the last week in the MAC. 7 wins, 5 losses for the conference. Okay, so now that we've wrapped up last week, let's go ahead and look at the games for this week. On Friday, September 23rd, we have Wyoming traveling to Eastern Michigan. Right now, I'm seeing Eastern Michigan as a 2.5-point underdog. On Saturday, you've got Kent State Golden Flashes traveling to Alabama. Kent State is a 44-point underdog there. Got Central Michigan traveling to Virginia. Right now, the Chippewas are 3.5-point favorites. You also have Garden Webb taking on the Ohio Bobcats. That's not a game that we're really going to look at, but it's there. Appalachian State, a 6-point favorite over the Akron Zips. Miami, Ohio, and Cincinnati in their rivalry game. Miami travels to Cincinnati, a 17.5-point underdog there. Western Illinois plays Northern Illinois. And then that's not a game we'll look at. And then we also have Ball State traveling to Florida Atlantic. The Cardinals of Ball State are a 3.5-point underdog. Western Michigan hosts Georgia State. The Western Michigan Broncos are a 7-point favorite. Buffalo hosts Army. Army's a 14-point favorite in that game. And the Bowling Green Falcons are 17-point underdogs on the road to Memphis. All right, so Friday night, Eastern Michigan, 2.5-point underdog to the Wyoming Cowboys. Eastern Michigan is off to a 2-1 start. This is actually a very big deal for Eastern Michigan. because Eastern Michigan Eagles, they have not won more than 2 games since 2011. So if they could go ahead and get that home win on Friday night, that would be a big deal. This game, kind of hard to get a feel on it. Betting on Wyoming, betting on Eastern Michigan, not really something that I want to do. The Wyoming has a very good running back, a sophomore by the name of Brian Hill. He ran for 207 yards last week. However, of course, that was against UC Davis, so take it for what it's worth. But over the last 2 seasons, that now gives him 5 games where he's ran for over 200 yards rushing in the past 2 seasons, and that is more than any other FBS player. So Eastern Michigan is going to have to be ready to stop the run. That's something that Wyoming likes to do. This should be a pretty good game to watch. Even though neither team is a real sexy pick here. Honestly, Wyoming's 2-1 as well. If I had to pick a winner, I actually like Wyoming to cover the 2.5, but I would really just put like a very basic wager on this. This isn't really something that I'd want to make it happen in betting on. Going into Saturday, you have Alabama and Kent State. Kent State's on the road, of course. 44-point spread by Alabama. Honestly, I'd like Alabama to cover, but 44-point spreads, you never know what's going to happen. For those of you that don't know, Nick Saban is actually a Kent State alum. He played for Kent State when they won their only conference title back in the 70s. So, 44 points, it's do you want to beat them that bad or not? Kent State actually has a pretty solid defense. They lost to Penn State this year 33-13. Penn State got a garbage touchdown in that game, but then they give up 39 points to, no disrespect, but they give up 39 points to North Carolina AT&T in a 39-36 loss. And then they beat Monmouth last week 27-7. So not real good competition there. That was the first time that Kent State's held an opponent in single digits since 2013. I actually like the Tide to roll here. As high as 44 points is. Alabama probably covers. But you never know. They could go conservative in the second half. I would have to probably go ahead and predict here. Like Alabama 52, Kent State 7, which is really close, but I'm not going to recommend playing it because, it's 44 points. It's a 44-point spread. So much can go wrong there. Just, if you do play the game, play Alabama, but 44 points, that is a lot of points. Moving along on Saturday, there's actually a game that I actually like a lot here, and that is going to be the Central Michigan Chippewas traveling to play the Virginia Cavaliers. If you don't really look at the teams and if you just look at the names on the teams, you're probably thinking Virginia should win this game. That is not the case at all. Okay, Virginia is hosting the game, but Western Michigan actually comes in as a 3.5-point favorite. I'm sorry if I said Western. Central Michigan comes in as a 3.5-point favorite. I like Central Michigan in this game. I am going to play this game. This is one of my recommended plays. I really like this game a lot. Central Michigan, they upset Oklahoma State on a controversial play, but they put themselves in position for something like that to happen. And they beat UNLV last week. Virginia looks like they're in for a rough season. They're 0-3. But the competition that Virginia has played has not been stellar. They lost 37-20 to Richmond at home. Okay, then they lost 44-26 to Oregon. That's not anything that you're really going to judge them too hard on. But then they followed it up with a 13-10 loss to Connecticut. And Virginia right now just not looking like a good not looking like a very good football team. So I like Central Michigan to go ahead and sorry about that. I like Central Michigan to go ahead and win this game. I mean, Cooper Rush, he's really starting to show how good of a player he can be. Last week against UNLV, he threw for 352 yards, 6 touchdowns, and no interceptions. On the season, he's got 11 touchdowns versus 3 interceptions, 957 passing yards. Central Michigan, they also have 4 different receivers with at least 10 different receptions this year and over 100 yards on the season. So there's a lot of different targets for him to go through there. Virginia, they've really struggled on this season offensively. And hey, go ahead out there and play Central Michigan. Virginia's only scoring 18 points a game right now, and right now UConn, I don't think UConn's a very good football team. Despite some of the reputation. Go with Central Michigan on the road. I like Central Michigan. They're going to be playing an ACC team, and they've got a better team. So go ahead and play Central Michigan. That's a recommended play. Next on Saturday, we have a game that, most people probably won't watch because there's so many other games going on. But, Appalachian State and Akron actually has the potential to be a pretty entertaining football game there. Appalachian State comes in as a 6-point favorite, and after the Zips were a 17-point underdog last week and they won that game by 27, 65-38, I really think that Akron has a great chance in this game. But the thing is, Akron's 2-1. Okay, their only loss was to Wisconsin, 54-10. They beat Virginia Military by 23. It is what it is, and then a good win to Marshall. So you've got Akron, who's 2-1. Offense is looking really good, and they have one loss to a very good team. Appalachian State, on the other side, they lost at the very beginning of the season, first game to Tennessee by a touchdown in overtime, and then they beat Old Dominion 31-7. Now they had a letdown. They got crushed last week 45-10, but it was to the Miami Hurricanes. So really both of these teams, all of their wins are coming against very good opponents. The over-under on this game is 57.5. I kind of like that, but the way the Akron offense is going, but still, overall, there's a lot to see. There's a lot to see here, and I'm really interested to see how both teams are going to respond. Akron, they have allowed over 500 yards of offense in 2 straight games. Of course, that was to Wisconsin and Marshall, but still, their defense is a little shaky. I think that Akron, I actually would take Akron at the +6 to cover. I like the Zips to cover at home, but not one of my personal plays there. But that should be an entertaining game, and I think we should learn a lot more about the Akron Zips. All right, so the next game that we have is going to be Miami, Ohio, taking on the Cincinnati Bearcats. Now, Miami, Ohio finds himself a 17.5-point underdog. Now, I like Miami in this game, and here's why. Cincinnati, on paper, much better team than Miami. Miami's 0-3. They did lose a tough game week 1. They battled, they covered the spread even though they lost. They got beat 45-21 at Iowa. Then they lost to Eastern Illinois, bad loss. But then they covered the spread again, only losing to Western Kentucky by 7 as a 17-point underdog. So Miami has battled tough there. Now here's the thing. Last 3 years, Okay, Cincinnati has won each one of these games for the victory bell. Now, this is a rivalry game, even though they're in different conferences. Cincinnati and Miami don't like each other. This is a real rivalry, okay? Miami hasn't won since 2005, but, okay, last year, Cincinnati won 7 games. Much better team than Miami. Miami only won 3 games last year. Last season, Miami was coming off of a 58-0 loss at Wisconsin. They hosted Cincinnati and they only lost 37-33. So they only lost by let me cut this off by 4 points. So that was a very competitive game. Now the year before that, Cincinnati was also a big favorite and they won by 7, 31-24. The year before that, 14-0. Now these seasons, Cincinnati was much better than Miami. I mean, 2014, which was a competitive matchup, as I said, where Cincinnati only won by 7 points. I mean, the Bearcats were very good that year. The Bearcats went 9-4 that season. Okay, they lost to Virginia Tech in the Military Bowl that season. Miami that same season, they were 2-10. Okay, so there's a pattern here of bad Miami teams playing much better Cincinnati teams close. And Miami is starting to come together. I mean, this team, they're 0-3, but they're better than those past Miami teams were. Okay, 2013 even. 2013, Miami went 0-12. 0-12 in 2013. Okay? They lost to Cincinnati that year 14-0. 14-0. You know what Cincinnati did that year? They were 9-4. They were 9-4 that season. Okay? So I go ahead and 17.5. I'm going to say go ahead and play Miami. I am. I'm going to say play Miami. Play the Redhawks. They're going to. I think they should keep it close. I think they should be able to keep it within the 17.5. Cincinnati, I'm not sure that they're as good as they've been the last couple years. Miami is better than they've been the last couple years, and I think Miami even has a chance as to go ahead and get a upset here. And as we're talking about it, I definitely think that Cincinnati's going to win the game, but I like Miami to cover. Now, as far as saying Miami to upset, a lot of that is based on value. So, and you know what? I have not looked at the money line very closely for this game, but let's go ahead and take a look at this money line. So we're going to look at Cincinnati hosting Miami, Ohio. Now this could possibly. Now it is a long shot that Miami wins this game, but right now, okay. Let's just say, for example, CG Technology. They've got Miami at a plus 700 point underdog. Okay, I would go ahead and lay a little bit on Miami. Not a lot. I mean, if you usually bet $50 a game, I mean, if you've got that to risk, go ahead and lay it on Miami money line. If you want to lay $10, if you want to lay $100, whatever you have. Now just keep this in mind. At plus 700, you get 7 times your bet. So you put $100 down, you win 700. You put $10 down, you get 70. Put $1 down, you get $7. Now, obviously, that's because it's not likely to happen. But I'll tell you this: at plus 700, this has a better chance of happening at plus 700 than a lot of games do. Now, I do not expect Miami to win. I'm not telling you Miami's going to win. I'm telling you I like Miami to cover. And at plus 700, there's definitely at plus 700, it's definitely not a bad risk. Okay, moving along. I don't want it to drag. I spent a lot of time on that Cincinnati, Miami, but okay, we've got Ball State traveling to play Florida Atlantic. I like Ball State as the 3.5 point favorite here. Okay, Florida Atlantic. They won their first game against Southern Illinois 38-30. Then they lost to the Miami Hurricanes 38-10. Okay, maybe we won't judge them too bad for that. Then they get boosted by Kansas State 63-7. Now, no disrespect to Kansas State, but that is a very, very very, very wide margin. Ball State has shown that they can run the football this year. Ball State's 2-1. They beat. They're 2-0 against the spread. I mean, they beat Georgia State 31-21 open the season. They lost to Indiana 30-20. That's not a bad loss. And then they beat Eastern Kentucky 41-14. Just a couple statistics I'll throw out there. Last 6 non-conference games, Florida Atlantic 1-5 against the spread. They are 1-8 against the spread in their last 8 home games. Florida Atlantic's also lost 4 games in a row against the spread. Ball State is 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 non-conference games, and they're 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games in September. Take the Ball State Cardinals minus 3.5 against Florida Atlantic. All right, so the team of the week, those Western Michigan Broncos, they beat Illinois. They beat Northwestern this year. They keep rolling, and they're going to be hosting Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern also 3-0. Beat Savannah 54-0. Beat South Alabama 24-9. And this last week they had a very interesting conclusion to their game. They were up 23. Sorry about that. They were up 23-21 going into the final quarter, going into the final seconds against Louisiana Monroe. And let's listen in.
For as low as $349 a month. In the lead. Blocked. And the Eagles will take over on the Warhawks side of the 50.
All right, so basically Louisiana Monroe was trailing 23-21. Georgia Southern got a block with 1:16 left, and they preserved the win. Now, I'm going to stay away from this game, and here's why. I want to go with Western Michigan. Western Michigan looks like the best team in the MAC. Western Michigan looks like, in my opinion, Western Michigan looks like a top 25 football team. Okay? But there are a couple factors here. Georgia Southern, they run that option offense that is so hard to prepare for because you don't see it that much. Okay? And then teams are different, but let's look at last season, okay? Georgia Southern beat Western Michigan, who was still good, 43-17. And then at the end of the season, as an underdog, they beat Bowling Green, the MAC champions. Now, Bowling Green was going through coaching changes, but anyway, in the GoDaddy Bowl, Georgia Southern beat Bowling Green 58-27, and they beat Western Michigan 43-17. As much as I would love to say that Western Michigan gets some revenge here, triple option is tough to figure out. And even if they figure it out, I mean, right now Western Michigan is a 7-point favorite. Yeah, I'm going to stay away from that one. Even if they win 7 points, beat Georgia Southern by more than a touchdown, I think I'm going to have to actually stay away from that game. If I had to give a lean, gosh, I really want Western to win this game. But yeah, if I had to lean, it's going to be really, really tough. I mean, Western Michigan, though, they can run and pass, so I probably would lean Western Michigan, but I'm not going to play this game. All right, let's speed through these last 2 games here. Army, a 14-point favorite at Buffalo. You know what? I play Army at 14. They beat Temple by 15. They beat Rice by 17. They beat UTEP by 48. Buffalo looks like a complete dumpster fire this year. I know they're only 0-2. They lost to Albany. They got smacked by Nevada. Go ahead and play Army minus 14. And then in the last game here, okay, I'm not going to say this too many times because I don't really want to show biases, but I'm not going to play this game. You've got Memphis hosting on ESPN News. Game I'll be checking out against my alma mater, the Bowling Green Falcons. Memphis is a 17-point underdog. Looks like it's going to be a long year for Bowling Green, honestly. I mean, they're coming off of a 20-point loss to a Middle Tennessee State. They got a 1-point win against North Dakota. Not to be confused with North Dakota State. We're talking about North Dakota. And then they have the 67-point loss to Ohio State. Now, look, honestly, and I hate to say this, I don't really like to take personal attacks at anybody, but, I mean, Bowling Green has some issues at the quarterback position. James Kanapke is honestly the worst starting quarterback that I can remember Bowling Green having in a very, very long time. With him running the offense, I mean, 129 yards passing. I mean, that's not Bowling Green football. I really think if you're going to play this game, I'm going to give you a strong lean. I don't want to just sit there and cheer against Bowling Green, but my goodness, I think that hopefully they can get it together. I mean, 17 points sounds just about right. I'd stay away from this. Bowling Green, if they can't get the passing game going, they're going to be in some trouble. They really are. But honestly, I'll go ahead and say, and I'll say that Bowling Green covers 41-27. Memphis by 14. Don't go betting on Bowling Green and blaming me, though. I definitely tell you to stay away from this game. Over-unders at 68. I see it right around 68. Memphis won last year with they had Paxton Lynch, and they won at Bowling Green. So I like Memphis to win that game, but at 17, I'm going to stay away from it. So that go ahead and wraps up the Mid-American Conference podcast with our predictions for the week. My very personal plays that I do like. I like Central Michigan against the spread. I like Miami, Ohio against the spread. I like Ball State against the spread. I like Army against the spread as well. So it should be a great week of college football out there. Hope that you brought some insight to maybe a conference that you don't pay a lot of attention to. And there's also some very good football games across the country. Georgia at Ole Miss, that game kicks off at noon on ESPN. You got Florida State and South Florida at noon, very good game. You got Wisconsin, Michigan State at noon, a very good game. You got Michigan, Penn State. Well, you guys can check it. Florida, Tennessee, very good game. LSU, Auburn, Houston, that's not so much. So go ahead and check out my site at Betsportsstrong.com. I have this podcast up, but most of my bets are going to be on. Go ahead and check out Captain BetSportsStrong and Get Sports Strong on Twitter and Facebook. I'm out of here. I'm done rambling. That's another week of the Mid-American Conference Football podcast. Let's go ahead. Let's have some fun and make some money. All right. God bless.